Oh yeah, because this is 2. Or it's just like I don't know what it is, but I just know it's normal.
And then that's just like, then you need to go back to this and be like, if the and then you know like what form it is at the end of it all.
As long as you can.
It's actually kind of helpful. You know, I'm just trying to do something.
Okay, let's try. Let's do this together.
Well, I kind of did it, but
The conclusions are really hard though.
But I'm pretty sure it's like, I was pretty sure like I had to see the radio thing. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't really watch the video right now because it wasn't posted, so I really don't know.
Yeah, I know the angle, but I have no idea what the conclusion.
So the angular deviation is telling us we need the interpolate. Like, how do we know when we're done? When we find the angular deviation?
We have to do a conclusion, which I don't know how to do that.
Right. How could we conclude this?
Like all the intervals of the waves and stuff, everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm just gonna think
Okay, let's try this.
Well, yes. Thank you. Yeah, negative 25.
The one thing that I can help out with, that's normally it's the opposite. I was like, I know.
At least the other one there was a process. This is not done.
Yeah, like I've done like the QR stuff. Did y'all do that first?
Yeah.
I haven't.
I have for the first like 4.
Well, can we just like that's all I've done. So I went.
Yeah, which one?
Or QT, QRS, PR.
Yeah.
Which ones have you done? 3. I got. That's what I got on 3.
Did you get? I put 110 heart rate and put.
I got CRs in .08.
Yeah, we are.
Isn't it from the start of the PA to the PR? Yeah. PR is the start of the P to the start of the Q. So I think that would be way too much.
Yeah, that's point.
Because that would be like indicating an issue too. Because if the P wave starts like right here.
Okay, but like, which one are we reading? Because I could have read one that's different.
That's definitely.
That's true. I have that's what I wonder with that. And I've been looking at V1 and my I cannot count. All the first wrong. That's why I'm like, obviously we're off by a lot, you know, right? Right. Well, no, we're off by 2 bucks. She's right. Like if you use this one, then it's that's longer. Maybe that's the one I use. So.
Because it's .04.
Okay.
I don't know which one we're supposed to do.
Yeah,
Maybe leave 2.
No, I just probably thought it was 0.4.
That's the road.
Yeah, that one side I was trying to read.
But did you get
I
point? I don't know which one. For the
And
QRS, I got .12.
We're just probably all reading different ones. Like,
Or counting different boxes.
I use a magnifying.
I might as well just start
Oh,
all completely over.
Obviously,
So what'd you get on
chalkboard?
PR.
Alright, so let's go over these.
I did it. I think it's just because I thought it was
Wait, you got the same PR as me?
Obviously, when you do your homework, you're going to fill out.
We have the same QT.
We must
So you're going to do everything in this square. first. And by doing, go ahead.
How would you describe this rate? Is it like, or this rhythm, is it like irregular? Because he
Because
kind of told us there's like normal rate, irregular rate, and then irregularly irregular.
Right.
So, are we
So-
going to that? Or can you just like
So you
explain
go
that?
off of the peaks of your QRS, okay?
I could show
You
this
also look at, so this is where you're gonna look at, well, number one, your rate is gonna be counted as the number, and then your rhythm, so both of those are actually together. Your P and your QRS complex. So are your P's regular? Do they hit in the same beat every time, the same distance? And that caliper that he showed you yesterday, I have one. You can't practice emergency medicine without it until you catch on.
What is it?
So, as a student, you can't. That's going to be the easiest way. That's going to help you. You're not going to be yanking it out of your hand if you use it during your test. That's going to be the fastest way. Did you see how he used it yesterday? Should have brought mine.
It's like the things you use like math.
It's almost like a protractor.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Rat clips. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm so old school.
Wait, you said we could bring one?
Which one?
This is where I got mine. Drug rep. You guys don't live in that era anymore. Sorry. It was really nice. I actually got a free cardiology 3 stethoscope.
Wow.
What?
Stethoscope from a drug rep.
That's amazing.
Little things here and there. I got a pharmacopoeia. I had a Sanford guide. I mean, just little things that they would give you here and there. Before I came on board, they would pay for physicians to go on trips. Yeah.
It's illegal.
Right. And then whenever I came out, I was like, of course they're going to change the rules. You can't send me on a trip. All I get is dinner. Okay, I'll take it. And then whenever I wanted the stethoscope, I was like, ooh. So, yeah, little things that kind of mean a lot now because you guys don't get anything. Sorry. So I didn't get the low end of the barrel. What you do is you put both of these points on the tip of the QRS, one next to each other, and then you essentially just go, walk it out, boom, boom, boom. That's regular. Every time it's supposed to, it's there.
So you put it on the QRS or the P, or does it matter?
On the QRS.
On the
Let me
QRS.
show you one.
So the tip of the arm.
Let me show you one. Listen. Yes. I don't know if my hands will be in the way. I'll try.
You just write the regular. Because remember he's like regular, irregular, or irregular. He's like, these are very important terms in
Is that
there.
deltas changes?
Each one's on a tip, and then you rotate it. Well, it's going to be really hard.
Just say it right.
Rotate, and then I'm going to lay it down so you can see. Bam. Hitting right on. Rotate. Bam. Hitting right on. See how that is? That's regular, obviously.
Nice.
Clockwork. Bam, bam, bam. So you do that. It's easier to do the QRS complexes because P waves aren't as tall and aren't as obvious to see. Now, when you start having questions of, your P and your QRS, remember the whole volleyball example, trying to figure out what type of a block it is, knowing the space in between your P and your QRS. So what that's called is your PR, because you go to the tallest peak of the R, so the beginning of the P to the R distance. And if that changes, if it's the same every time and your rate is really, really slow, then that would be a first degree heart block. If it doesn't, again, we'll skip over 2 because it's a little bit more complicated. You'll learn this in ACLS. But if your P waves, if there's not a QRS for every P, or your P waves are essentially not talking to the QRS, it's like they've got their own beat. One's not listening to the other. That is a third degree heart block, and that's typically going to be really slow and easy to see because it is so slow. Then your winky Bach, you'll see the distance between your P and your R. So you go the top. You get where you can see me. The beginning of your P to your R. So again, it's a visualization of being that space, and then you leave that there and don't move it, and then you measure it each time and seeing if it's about the same, which is fairly close. P to R. I moved it, obviously. There we go.
And when you're measuring P to R, you're just counting the boxes in that space, correct? Okay.
Yes.
Now on V, since it's hard,
The PR interval, you're going to count those boxes and you're going to estimate it. Again, he's not going to throw anything at you and you're not going to be discharged out of the class for getting it wrong. So just estimate the boxes and then you multiply it by how much is a little box?
0.04.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if it's greater than 0.12, then it's abnormal, right? So then it would be prolonged. So you're going to measure your interval, and you're going to put that in there where it says PR. But then after you measure that interval, if it's normal, that's it. If it's abnormal, you need to name it, prolonged PR interval. And that will be one of your conclusions. Okay? See how that's going to work?
Is that
You're measuring it.
first degree?
Not up and down.
Oh, so it doesn't
You're not
matter.
going to name the whole
So
rhythm,
this would
no.
be
That's
like,
what I'm confused
And then
on.
Yeah, you're not doing arrhythmias.
I have to
Yeah.
this morning. He was like,
So if-
yes, he's like,
if
whatever,
the
based on your
whatever
findings,
is
it
one,
should be
then you
right
just do
up
0.04.
here, I guess, or. he's like,
So
yes,
the things that he did talk about, so like atrial fib, that you're going to be able to see that your P waves are just not there, essentially. The definition that I learned, atrial fib is absent P waves with an irregular rhythm. So when you march out your R to R, QRS, it's never going to be right on. It's going to go, you're going to go over and it's going to move. And you're going to go over and it's going to move. Almost every time.
in
Because
AFib,
it's irregularly irregular. It's never regular. In atrial fib.
oh, I didn't even know.
Is it more sense this way?
When you shuffle,
More than
it's right in there.
PR, first degree,
Yes, that's how you name, that was a good point. So again, if you've got a P for every QRS, and it's just a slow rate, that's bradycardia. What indicates a first degree, I write it as a 1 and a 0, a first degree heart block is that you've got a prolonged PR interval, which is abnormal, as well as a slow rate. Okay.
both.
By definition, a first degree heart block is essentially a QRS for every P, prolonged PR interval. Yes?
Would you mind showing us on 21 on this one for the rhythm?
You want me to name that rhythm?
Yeah.
Name that rhythm.
Just because I guess it's like 2 space, like it was, I don't know on that one.
So
Which one are you on?
21,
it's regular, but then there's,
lead 1.
right, there's, every once in a while, you'll see a little glitch, like, and again, this is why you're not trying to read a full rhythm. You'll be able to name atrial fib because you can't diagnose a rhythm on a 12 lead. You have to look at a rhythm strip. So it has to be a long, thing for you to be able to see it and diagnose
So
it.
we'd be able to go ahead and just call this one regular?
Just sign it. On leads 1, 2, 3, it looks like it just skipped the beat. What was that called again? Because
Right.
the first one there's a little bit.
Irregular.
And
So,
1, 2, and 3 it skips.
right, it essentially drops
And
there.
Yeah.
So it could be a junctional rhythm. It's not a PAC because there's not a premature atrial. There's not a contraction that shouldn't be there that's too early than your normal the beat of the music. Yeah.
So when we're looking at these volumes, which box should we be looking at? Because like for the AVL, it looks like it's a prolonged PR interval, to me at least. But then the other ones, not so much. Right.
Or like when the T's
Right.
peak and on the other ones it looks normal.
So are we supposed to like look at every single?
So just pick one, and you'll see as we start doing and going through, and he calls on somebody and they're giving their reading, then after they're finished with their reading, they'll say, does anybody see anything else? Because there might be just an outlier of something somewhere, and you're going to go, well, on AVO, when I look at that, it looks like a prolonged PR interval, and then we'll discuss it.
Would that be for the diagnosis then, or is it just?
We're not diagnosing, that's the thing.
Oh, okay.
We're not doing clinical diagnostic EKGs.
Oh, okay.
We're interpreting what you're
Gotcha.
seeing
Okay.
only.
Gotcha.
There's definitely a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we're measuring, like I have trouble deciding which one to look at when I'm measuring like the PR, QRS, QT. Do we all, like, does that need to be consistent with each one we're measuring? Like, do I need to
Pick
look
one
at the
that you can
same
easily see and
for
measure
each
it.
one, even if they're in different boxes?
Mhm.
Okay.
You don't have to measure every box, just pick one.
And it doesn't matter which one? Because I think, like, we compared one and we got different things.
Way off.
Well, it wasn't like way off.
It wasn't way
was like
off?
relatively close, but
So again,
then it was like, well, I
his answer's
measured
gonna be, we're not gonna fist fight over
.16 here,
it, it's
and you
okay.
measured
Okay.
point.
That's exactly what he's
here.
gonna say.
Yeah.
We're not gonna fist fight over it, it's close enough. Because of the fact that,
So just do it, basically.
yeah, just do it.
Alright.
Nike, so whenever you guys are in your class.
That being said.
Yeah, I know. That's what I think I'm about to go to.
It's painful,
Yeah.
and you'll learn, and again, it's gonna be hard to appreciate until later, yes.
Okay, so on her question, she was like, he said just pick a box. So for each box, that say I pick like AFB to always look at or whatever.
ABS.
ABS, yeah.
Never pick ABR because he told you to ignore it, that's all I would say.
So I pick
ABS.
that one. Do I have to always keep in mind what that normal beat would look like?
Yes.
So I just like, if I always pick that one, then I need to have that little picture of what the ABS looks like always, and then compare it to that. And that would be a good way to do this, or how to interpret EKGs.
Right. So is that a new normal QRS complex? Okay. So again, you're not going to have to go into that much detail. Just answer those questions. So let me look at the overall answers on 21, just to kind of give you an example.
She did our
That's gonna be future homework. We're gonna do those eventually.
I'll give you 100.
Another vanilla milkshake.
Now we're talking.
Money's worth nothing, but milkshakes are forever.
So, do you, I don't understand.
Did you guys get like sinus on like the first like 8 or something like that?
I didn't do the.
I think.
So
the
they
second
call
one's
this
right
an
there.
irregular
It's all-
rate because of that skip in 1, 2, and 3,
Oh, good, in 21.
as well as in
We're right.
V3. And again, that's the lead changing. But if you look at V1, 2, and 3, there's a space in between the second and third QRS complex on every one of those leads, right? So that's not regular. So if you see that overall, then go ahead and name it irregular. You don't have to name what type of a rhythm, it's just, is the rhythm regular or irregular?
Because you said there's a space between the second and then the third. Is that what you said?
Right.
Okay, so it doesn't look normal across.
Right, so if you were to march that out with your caliper, it's not gonna beat at the right time. So again, what is your rate? Count it. Number 2, is it regular? Name it. If it's regular, write regular. If it's irregular, write irregular. Okay? Then you're going to look at your Q waves. Do you have Q waves or do you not? So
We do. See, that's why
Again,
I'm like,
again, you're gonna get arguments, right? So some are gonna say, yeah, I have them, they're in ABF and B5 and 6, because the wave doesn't go up, it goes down first.
And 2 and 3. Right?
Yes. Oh, sorry, it was.
I was sure you had a
Yours
weekend to do
put it in a different area. 2, 3, ABF, 5, and 6, B5 and 6.
So 2 days to.
So,
Yes, you may.
So,
I just, like I said, I'll have these two for my midterm test.
the other things that they noted, oh, that's because they're long ones. It's going to get harder as you go through the book, and he's also going to give you more rules. But again, go through these and write them
Dude, I
down
thought
for your
IR
classmates.
NMR is you.
Because those are the things that you're going to be asking yourself, and those are going to be what you write in your conclusion. What's my rate? Is my rhythm regular? Not naming the rhythm. That's not what that rhythm word says. It's not saying.
Sorry.
I did.
No, irregularly irregular.
I like just now.
It's irregularly
Or at 2 p.m.
irregular. You can write it irregularly irregular. And then
I forgot to
make sure
switch my account, so they're on Zachary Ishikawa's YouTube account. Right next to the cat videos. Sorry.
There's like very minor P waves in AVL,
You said 80.
I don't even know
L.
what the freaking topic is.
like small P waves, I think.
Yeah, so look at your T wave, which is peak traffic, your PRS, and now follow that line off the baseline, and you'll see that move up.
Yeah, right there.
And it's not in every one of them, it's in the P wave is before the 4th and the 5th, but the 5th one, you can't even look at the QRS, but the P wave is there.
Like the doctor could do that.
Like 0.32 on PR.
See, I just don't know what to write.
So do you remember the left-handed check mark that they talked about yesterday?
Yeah.
That's in this one, it's in V2 and 3. It's also, actually it's in V1, 2, 3, and 4. The left-handed check mark.
Yeah, which is, are those inverted T?
They are inverted T waves, so you can name that as well.
Well, all these things that you're finding and listing off,
Are they going to be looking for?
okay, and then whenever we get to the point of where we have to like recognize it and then you have to diagnose the patient, these things are all different for different therapies, like different problems.
We're not diagnosing,
I know we're not
and we're not
diagnosing.
treating, so just don't think about that
Just
right
don't
now.
think about it.
Don't think about that. Just do his stuff to get you through this and to take the test, and then we're going to do arrhythmias, and you'll be able to pick those up easier if you do that.
So for the conclusions part though, I guess I'm confused, are we writing down like
You just choose.
inverted T waves and stuff like that, but, cause like some things like are indicating like, inferior age and determinate infarction.
Correct.
Are we supposed to write that?
If you
Cause isn't that diagnosing?
So he calls it interpreting an injury pattern.
Okay.
not
So
an
we
actual
do
pattern.
write that. Like if we see that, we don't like explain it, we write
So,
this is this. Like this is an
For
inverted T
example,
wave.
on 21, they actually named inferior acute MI because they are not noting that QRS complex is going back to baseline and moving over.
Right.
And they're just calling that ST elevation.
On 2, 3 in AVL.
Correct, which would be what
Inferior.
type of inferior, right? So that's all 3 leads present.
So they don't, yeah, okay.
And they're calling it an old
Yeah.
Because of the Q.
because of the T waves being upright, as well as the Q wave.
Yeah, I was like,
Wait, did you say
it's like an
acute?
The Q wave is going down.
Right,
So
so
is
it's
it-
called both, see what I'm saying?
Oh,
I'm writing down exactly what the students say, and then he doesn't argue either way. It's what your interpretation is, and you guys discuss it. But on your test strips, they're going to be obvious. It's not going to be both seen. We're not going to trick you. And if there were, I changed them. Because I actually changed 4 of his answers. And completely changed the rhythm because I saw, and when I pointed it out to him, he was like, oh, yeah, that is there. So, again, you're just trying to pick out all the details of it and write it down. And on your test, they're going to be obvious. And the way to do your test is by a process of elimination. And the one that doesn't have anything eliminated is your answer. Yes?
So the pattern of tracing, what is that?
He said that yesterday. Let me.
It basically just means what you're finding. So if you find,
So signs of the spirit.
well, I mean, like if you see inverted T waves, you would note that down. If you see the backwards check mark we talked about, you would write that down.
Right.
If you see,
And the patterns of the tracings as well. So the patterns being with contiguous leads, being the family leads. I'm seeing these changes here, here, and here. And if you see it in a family, that's what this would be. If you see those changes in one family, look for reciprocal changes on the opposite side. So if you follow these rules or your questions for yourself, you're going to get most of what he wants when you're answering him. Did you guys all write those down? Yes. So I can take a picture as well?
Okay, so PR is the PR interval if they're regular, or like, I guess I don't know, or if it's prolonged or normal.
Right.
So then what, and so QRS would be if the QRSs are prolonged or normal, and same with the QT?
So to make sure that when you're mapping out the QRS, that it's on beat. And then as well, from P to P, it's on beat. If there's a premature P, does it follow with a QRS? If it's a premature P with a QRS, then that's a premature contraction.
So I guess I just don't know like what to write right there, so like in the QRS box.
you write the number.
How big it is.
Right.
Okay, so these are numbers.
These are measurements. Sorry. So these are your intervals. Your heart rate is going to be a number, obviously. Your PR is going to be a number of that length, that interval. Your QRS is the length of that complex. Your QT is the measurement between the beginning of the QRS and the end of your T.
Okay, I got you. That's what I think I was trying to figure out something else, and you guys started talking about that, and I caught the conversation late. Okay. So that's when you would like, so if it's 3 boxes long, you times it by 0.04, and that's the length of your complex. Okay.
And then the axis there, your frontal axis, we already did all that. And then the pattern of tracing is, you know, whether it's in a family or not.
Okay.
And then you're going to draw your conclusions from all of that. And then obviously you see down below, there's 5 corrected conclusions. So he's expecting you to miss it. And you'll see that you're going to correct him sometimes, a lot of the times too. Yes?
So, like, we have to do this, and I accept that.
Right.
But, like, it's not grade. The only grade
No.
one we see for EKGs is the 20% test.
Correct. And that's going to be obvious. And I'm going to share with you and everybody else that rule, process of elimination.
Yep.
If they haven't marked out that, and it will be obvious. We're not going to try and trick you.
So
Anything that is tricky, I'm going to eliminate because it's not there.
So I guess we'll be like atrial flutter will be like the answer. So we'll go back to the EK now. So
Right. It might be one of the 4 findings. But atrial flutter probably not. Atrial fib might be in there.
okay, so like say an answer is like atrial fib. So we'll go back up there and be like, no, I know AFib is characterized by blank, blank, blank.
And this doesn't have that, so no, it's not it.
Okay, or just okay.
Yes. Know your definitions. What defines that?
Okay.
What defines a prolonged PR interval? It's longer than point.
So is this out of his notebook or is the second guy? Are we gonna have him too?
The EKG test,
It's just from
that's the 20% of your grade, is Dr. Bonetta only.
okay, so like so here the PR interval is greater than 0.2 seconds, then the first degree process.
Yes. So you could name it a prolonged PR, but then on your conclusions, make sure that you know that that's a first degree heart block. And you're gonna be able to determine whether it's not one of the other heart blocks.
Oh, what's that? Is that an EKG book?
Yeah, my name's already.
Is that the one that we're supposed to burn?
No, not that one. It's not the one that.
Yeah.
I'll probably read it.